Halo 3 released on September 25th, 2007 on the Xbox 360 as the final installment of Bungie's original trilogy. Halo was at its peak, the anticipation was immeasurable, and the entire world could not wait to finally finish the fight. While it seems unlikely that gamers hadn't heard about Halo at this point in time, all the hoopla undoubtedly brought countless new gamers to the franchise to see what the big deal was. And for noobs making their foray into Halo for the first time back in 2007, there was no better place to look than the official Halo 3 strategy guide. I recently got my hands on the official guide, sporting Bungie's seal of approval, and although I've been playing Halo since Halo CE on the PC, I'm going to be playing through Halo 3 from a new perspective. I'm going to forget everything I know about the franchise and use this guide as if I'm a complete noob. No prior knowledge, no speedrun tricks, just the information presented to me in this guide. The guide is made specifically for normal difficulty, but I still have PTSD from this guy when I previously did this for Halo Combat Evolved, so we're going to be playing on Heroic. We are playing on an original Halo 3 copy since Bungie would not approve of the MCC version, and we're playing on an original Xbox 360. Nothing hits quite like playing on the original hardware. I gave the guide a once over before starting and was surprised to see the structure change a lot from the previous guides. There's only a short basics section that shows off the HUD and where everything's located on your screen, goes through the menus, and small things like that. The campaign section starts with another brief overview of the structure of the guide and how to use it, as well as common enemies. Combat Evolved and Halo 2 have much more in-depth intros with tons of detail on each enemy type, weapon, and what works best for each enemy. The Halo 3 guide has something similar in the debriefing section at the end of each level, which was done to avoid spoilers. We do still get nice overhead maps of each area, and each mission is split into two separate guides. The left page is a basic overview of how to get through the mission with very little detail compared to the Halo CE and Halo 2 guides. And the right page is specifically for legendary difficulty with all the strategies, tips, and tricks I'd expect from the guide. So although I'm playing on Heroic, I will be using the Legendary Guide section for this playthrough. So with all that out of the way, let's load up a fresh save file, forget everything we know about Halo 3, and finally finish the fight. After falling from the sky like some sort of meteor, Sergeant Johnson lubes up the Chief to unlock his armor, the Arbiter joins in, and we're off into the jungle. As we approach our first enemies, the guide suggests skipping the initial brute to take out the grunts and grab a plasma pistol. I was supposed to use the charge shot on the brute and then finish him off with some head, but my fellow Marines took care of him instead. Maybe I actually am a noob. We take cover while two phantoms drop off brutes and grunts, and then pop the brute with a charged PP and finish him off with a headshot. The guide notes this is the best way to handle brutes going forward, and we use that knowledge to clean up the rest of our ferocious foes. We grab a carbine and try focusing on the carbine jackals first as the guide recommends. We stay up top, taking out as many grunts and shield jackals as possible before jumping down. As we get low on ammo, we're told this is a good opportunity to have fun with the needler, so we teach the brutes to fear the pink mist. We collect a battle rifle pointed out by the guide, get a jump scare from a crazy ex-girlfriend, and move on to the next section. The guide gives us a priority list here, focusing first on the brute to the right, the grunts in the immediate vicinity, and the carbine jackals on the low buildings. Next, we take out jackal snipers on the far side of the river, and finally, we avoid phantom fire and take out the remaining enemies utilizing our new get out of jail free card in the bubble shield. The next section has us slowly picking apart jackal carbine and snipers, grabbing as much carbine ammo as we can, and after clearing the area, we get a sniper of our own. We spot Sergeant Johnson and get another priority list. We start by killing every sniper we can find, use our sniper on as many brutes as we can, and then try and take out the brute chieftain from afar, as this can save ourselves from needless perspiration and swear box contributions by taking him out with a sniper before we go any further. We don't quite accomplish this since he runs away like a coward, but we popped his helmet to make him an easy cleanup. We finish off the reinforcements, free Sarge, and sprint up the dam to slow the advance of the final attackers until the cavalry arrives. Then, we get to sit back and enjoy the fireworks. We jump in the Pelican and are off on our next mission. But first, have you ever gone outside? Because I have.
Well, this fucking sucks.
As a gamer, I don't go outside often, but when I do, it's usually to snowboard. And there's nothing I like more than some rad apparel to complement my interests. Insert Skip the Last, where you can express your love for the mountain year-round with their après-ski apparel. They have a little bit of everything, with dope designs and colors to make you the flyest shredder on the mountain. The company is run and owned by my cousin, who's been featured on the channel with the self-proclaimed Greatest Game Battles Ninja Defuse in COD World War II. And he hooked me up with my first creator code to get you 5% off your order. Just use code REHAB at checkout. I just tried it and it actually worked, which was a nice surprise. And I've paid for all my Skip the Last gear with my own hard-earned cash, so you know I stand by their products. Gotta support the fam. I'd really appreciate it if you gave them a follow on Instagram, checked out their site, and if you find something you like, grab some gear. And don't forget to use code REHAB at checkout for 5% off your order. Now, back to the video. We meet up with Miranda Keys and get interrupted by the Holy Prophet. We grab a battle rifle and magnum on our way out of the ops center, and take out the first set of enemies with grenades and battle rifle fire. The guy wants us to dual wield the plasma pistol and magnum to deal with the brute, and switch to the BR to deal with the jackals down the hall. In the hangar, we're advised to use the BR to eliminate the jackals and grunts, and then take cover upstairs as the phantoms arrive. We're told to grab a PP, and use the BR for the jackals and grunts, and the PP to prep the brutes for a final headshot. This strategy worked wonders, and we have no problem clearing the hangar. Before heading out, we grab some ammo, and the guide tells us to pick up a fresh machine gun turret before returning to the ops center. It may extend our journey time on the long walk back, but apparently we'll thank them for the tip shortly. If only there was a way to speed this up. Oh well, I guess I'll slow walk it. In the next area, we're attacked by drones, and we're told to keep moving in and out of cover, using the turret to gun them down. As the guide states, this makes for an easy battle. We're also pointing to another turret on top of this rock, which we use to finish the battle and bring with us to the next room. Here, we post up behind this trailer and poke out with the turret. This makes quick work of the brutes until we run out of ammo, but then we just use the plasma pistol and blast off on the remaining brutes and chieftain. We meet up with RB and noob combo every brute down the hallway, switching to the BR for any jackals. We even stick one of the brutes for good measure. The guide says this section can be a savagely tricky battle, but the plasma pistol really seemed to make this a breeze. +1 score for the guide. After finishing everyone off, we grab more BR ammo, a carbine, and the plasma turret that the chieftain was wielding per the guide's instruction. In the next area, the guide tells us to take up position by the large metal crate just outside the elevator, and to wait for brutes to enter the range of your plasma turret. This worked wonders until we ran out of ammo, and then I cleaned up the remaining brutes with the battle rifle and carbine. In the next roadway, we dart from cover to cover, methodically picking off targets, and at the end of the road, we take out all the grunts before dealing with the jackal snipers. We take a beam rifle, use it to annihilate the chieftain, finish off the last of them, and rearm the bomb. From here, we casually pop off on disorganized, panic-stricken grunts and make a final dash to the elevator for our final escape. At the bottom of the elevator, we grab a warthog and some friends and head to Tsavo Highway. The guide tells us to plow through these two jackal snipers and grab both snipers, giving one to our marine. The guide didn't know that the other beam rifle would disappear, so I guess I'm SOL. It's okay because we steal a different beam rifle and use it to deal with the fuel rod brute from afar. The guide has us barge right through the next area without much thought before heading to our next stop. Here we're supposed to use the beam rifle to pick apart the stragglers and shade turrets before focusing on the choppers. Our goal is to keep at least one of the choppers intact so that we can take it for ourselves. After clearing the final drones, we jump in a chopper and hit the highway. The guide strongly recommends taking the chopper over the broken bridge to the next battle and shows you how to achieve it. I, however, missed the jump and then proceed to get a checkpoint. I was supposed to revert to last save after missing the jump. Now I'm in a little bit of a pickle, but I unalive myself continuously hoping to revert to the previous checkpoint. I finally revert to the previous checkpoint, but yes, the previous checkpoint was also down in this area. I proceed to commit my life to the great journey 37 times. Yes, I counted. Before ultimately giving up and restarting the mission. Shoulda listened to the guide. At least this time I got both snipers here. So we make it back to the highway in the chopper and make it across on our second attempt. The guide gives us a ton of feedback for this next battle. with pros and cons for each area you can patrol, as well as step-by-step strategies. We start by heading down to the crashed trucks and unloading on everyone with the chopper, backing down when necessary. We clean up the remaining grunts with BR shots before the first Phantom arrives, and then we get back into the chopper and wreak havoc. The guide's recommendation to bring the chopper along here was immaculate, and really made this difficult section of Halo 3 a total breeze, other than some poor driving skills. We take out the final Wraith, grab a fuel rod, and head into the next area on our chopper. The guide claims this can be a very intense and frustrating confrontation unless you have a Wraith or chopper to use. But with the chopper, I actually smashed right through here harder than you smashed that like button. You already hit it, right? We take our chopper along to the next grand scale battle, and this is where the intensity and frustration kicks up. The guide offers a ton of advice, but the main points are to focus on the choppers first and then move on to the Wraiths. It mentions that it may be hard to maneuver a chopper over short distances, especially in reverse, and this was certainly my biggest source of agitation. You'd think I'm cross-eyed watching me try to drive this thing. It led to a lot of deaths and the use of some gamer words I can't repeat on this platform. But we slowly chip away at the choppers, getting a periodic checkpoint to save our progress, and even using the fuel rod a bit. But eventually, we just have a couple Wraiths left. The final Wraith gave me a ton of trouble too, just based on the angle I had to face it, but after a strong test of my patience, I finally figure out a means to tackle it. The guide explains the next section perfectly. With a chopper at your disposal, beating the penultimate battle at the small roadblock is simple. I annihilated the brutes here and grabbed the sniper pointed out by the guide. The final battle should be simple. I hammer away from a distance with the chopper. However, I didn't listen to the guide, which said, "We advise against moving too far down the slope in the chopper, even if it appears safe to do so." Yeah, I got myself killed right before completing the mission. On the second attempt, I took the guide's instruction to heart, and finished the remaining brutes off from a distance with the sniper before taking down the shield to end the mission. A storm is coming, and it's time to prepare. Before dealing with the first set of enemies, the guide tells us to head upstairs and grab this battle rifle, and to clear out the initial forces before opening the door so that the grunts don't make quick work of our warthog with a sticky grenade. We clear the area, open the door, stack up on ammo, and move forward. The guide tells us to hit the next button and then run in and to the right for additional cover, and also recommends dual wielding a pistol with the plasma pistol to deal with the brutes. But I do very little while the warthog unloads on our alien foes. We open the next door and commandeer the Puma. We catch up to the roadkill to be running along the side of the dry lake bed and clear out the low building. We collect a sniper and missile pod, thin down the herd of vehicles, and hijack the Wraith. The plasma tank makes it an easy cleanup for the remaining anti-air Wraith and ghosts, and the guide then says the door to the next area will be open and we can kill the small force any way we see fit. So obviously I use the optimal anti-infantry option. And would I even be a Halo player if I didn't try and force the Wraith in this building? The guide mentions taking a ghost in here, so I try to get the Wraith unstuck. Well, that was unfortunate. On our next attempt, we clear the area with the ghost and grab the plasma turret to clear the drones in the next room. We retreat through the door as needed, since the drones will rarely follow you through as foretold by the guide, and then grab a rocket launcher and BR ammo prior to departing. The guide tells us to save the rockets for a battle that occurs later in the mission, so we'll just be keeping them in our back pocket. For the next area, the guide states that while it's possible to destroy all the vehicles and anti-air race while on the Mongoose, surviving this would take 70% perspiration, 30% skill, and 434% luck. Instead, they recommend driving straight to the second of the two missile pod placements and using that to thin the herd of the vehicles. This was my first attempt, and I doubt this is what the guide intended. We make it up on our next try, however, and the Ghosts and Banshees and Choppers are our priority. But I must have run into a major skill issue, because the Ghosts had no problem gunning me down here. I died more on this section than anything so far on this run. I failed so many times here, and ended up just needing to take cover more preemptively. When vehicles got close, my rocket friend did a poor job shooting them, and I think they were too close for the missile launcher to connect. It takes a second to get off the launcher, and a lot of times it was just an extra second I wasn't giving myself. One time I swear my Marine rocketed me. He was probably tired of reloading the previous save. The weird thing is that when I finally did take out the vehicles, it seemed so easy. Like, why couldn't I do that 15 minutes ago? When the Scarab finally arrived, we must have had a little good fortune to make up for it. As per this side note, we were able to take the Scarab out without ever leaving the missile launcher. We shot the core right from here and obliterated the scary spider. For the next section, the guide has us bring a turret, hit a flank, and mop up the first set of brutes. We switch it for a new turret per the guide and do the same with the next group of apes. We've patiently been saving our rocket launcher for this moment, and blow the fattest load all over the 2 hunters storming the garage. They instantly go down, and we have some extra rockets for the chieftain. The guide tells us to grab a sniper from a nearby office, use it to take out the fuel rod chieftain up ahead, and clear out the remaining Covenant before destroying the anti-air unit and clearing the skies for the ensuing storm to arrive. The ensuing storm is none other than the arrival of the Flood. Floodgate is probably the quickest level in Halo 3, with speedrunners beating it on Legendary in like 4 minutes. But Bungie won't want us to just run straight through the level now, would they? We're told to collect grenades, a gravity hammer, and a shotgun en route to our first encounter with the Flood. The debriefing section at the end of the mission walkthrough gives us an overview of each Flood type, how to deal with them, and describes the new pure forms. The sword is still the best option to deal with the Flood, with the gravity hammer and shotgun being a close second. We should watch out for the new ranged pure form that shoots carbine-like projectiles from a distance, and be mindful of the tank form, which is enormously strong and highly resistant to many weapon types. It's odd that this is at the end of the level chapter, since you would want this information as you're working through Floodgate, but I guess that's the price you pay to avoid spoilers. As we make it to our first encounter, the guide says to hang back at the destroyed trailer and wait for the Flood to approach us. It may be tempting to jump in and try and save the Marines, but given that a single infection form can kill them, they won't last for long whatever you do. F's in the comments to pay respects. I'll remember you, my brothers in arms. We mop the floor with the Flood using the shoddy hammer combo, refill our ammo, and head inside. For this section, the guide has us stand in the doorway beside the metal stairs and engage open season as the hive mind sprints to its inevitable doom. Tons of equipment lay around after the battle, but the guide says the regenerator is the most useful, so we grab one of those. In the next area, the guide tells us to shoot the fusion cores as the Flood passes by, and when we reach the twisting metal corridor, have your hammer at the ready for a group of combat forms waiting to ambush you. You can wipe them all out with just 2 well-aimed strikes. You're not wrong, official strategy guide. We receive elite allies, and the guide goes off on how they can be a distraction, but can be more trouble than they're worth, throwing plasma grenades with furious abandon. I'm sure that's not a big deal, right? The guide tells us to grab dual plasma rifles and unload on Flood forms that jump up from the left and push down the ramp. As we enter the factory, the guide tells us to use a regenerator as Flood push out of this door, and then clear the landing zone as you head inside. We're told to grab the machine gun turret, and it seems pretty safe until one of our friends throws a plasma nade with furious abandon. Come on, dude, that's a war crime. We walk carefully down the concrete path with the turret, firing bursts at the range forms to temporarily disable them as we push forward. As we close our distance, we turn the Flood into mincemeat with the shotgun, and then retrieve Cortana from the Flood ship. Turns out it was just an elaborate voicemail. But Chief trusts Cortana, so it's time we head to the Ark. As we approach the first battle, the guide points out 2 dangers: the threat from brute shot blasts, and the potential of certain brutes and grunts pushing up the path to our right. So we focus on the brutes wielding brute shots and check our flank periodically. After clearing the area, the guide tells us to bring a plasma turret to the next spot. We drop the turret somewhere safe and do more of the same, focusing on brutes that have brute shots and using the BR for grunts and jackals. As a phantom drops off a pair of hunters, the guide tells us to wait patiently as the hunters separate to search for us, and then open fire with the turret on the close hunter until it drops. Rinse and repeat for his brother in arms, and this section was a breeze. The guide tells us to backtrack for more sniper and BR ammo, and then we head into the cave. At the Crashed Pelican, we're told to snipe the 2 brutes in the basin and to watch out for nades as we dispatch the remaining grunts. We do a piss poor job on our first attempt, but learn from our mistakes on round 2. As the 2 prowlers approach, we are given very specific instructions. Keep at least 2 marines alive, ideally 3, and don't destroy at least one of the prowlers. We abuse our expert marksmanship, giving the aggressive apes nothing but head. And per the guide's expertise, we give 1 marine our remaining sniper, and another marine the rocket launcher under the Crashed Pelican as we commandeer the prowler. It took a little patient preparation, as the marines were acting like a group of unruly children, but we eventually got the setup done proper. The guide also mentions that we should revert to the previous checkpoint if any marines are killed. This happens almost immediately, but this was actually the only time I lost a marine. From here, the marines absolutely dominate. We just orient the rocket marine to deal with choppers and ghosts, and let the sniper take out any infantry. This was by far the best tip the guide's given me so far. The guide tells us to stop by this warthog and grab the sniper for the mission's final battle, and then cruise around on Easy Street, letting the marines do all the work. As we get to the locked door, the guide suggests that we switch to a chopper for the ensuing large battle. We take out the Wraith from a safe distance, then focus on the turrets, floating platforms, and ghosts. This was all very easy until the last section. The guide warns of brutes and grunts inside the rock formation that wield brute shots, fuel rod cannons, and power drains. I died a ton here. I would slowly chip away on the brutes, but get hit by the anti-air wraiths, so I tried focusing on the wraiths, but I get caught by the infantry. I wasn't able to beat it until I finally took the wraiths out from a distance so I could claim that area to deal with the remaining brutes and grunts. At least now we get a tank. The guide tells us that the key to using the Scorpion is measured, careful progress. And heeding these words of wisdom, we absolutely demolish the Covenant. In the words of the Marines, tank beats ghosts, tank beats hunters, tank beats everything. Every single Covenant threat is annihilated as we make it back to the locked door where we have to proceed on foot. As we make it outside by the Scarab, the guide advises us to run swiftly to the Gauss turret to deal with the nearby ghosts, and then hop out and grab a Scorpion when we emerge on the main slope. We prioritize the closest vehicles and make sure to take down the hovering Phantom before moving within range of its weapons. As the Scarab returns, the guide's recommended strategy is to throw caution to the wind and drive straight under the Spider tank. We're supposed to shoot the knees out while also avoiding its legs. A couple curb stomps later, and we're able to bring the mighty arachnid to its knees and blow out its engine core. The slope ahead of us leading to the Cartographer sports a ton of enemies, including a new foe, the Brute Stalker. The guide recommends driving the tank up the right side and making intelligent use of splash damage to let the blast radius do the hard work for us. We do get a close-up look at a Brute Stalker, but luckily avoid him returning our party favor. We send sweet dreams to a group of grunts and utilize our grenades to clear the next room. We grab a brute shot and all the ammo we can find, activate the Cartographer, and head back inside. The next fight requires raw aggression according to the guide, so we abuse the brute shot to conquer the chieftain, stock up on ammunition, and steal his plasma turret on the way out. In the next room, the guide tells us to run around the corner to the right and kill the Brute Stalker before he has a chance to react, and then cautiously wait by this doorway for our camouflage foes to funnel in and mow them down with the plasma turret. Now it's time for the final battle, and the guide's advice to keep the sniper from earlier in the level is about to pay dividends. Yep, we've been carrying it this entire time. We immediately target the chieftain, but unfortunately he pops his invincibility before we land the final blow. We take pop shots at the jetpack brutes while we wait for the chieftain's invulnerability to subside, and then blow his mind with our elite marksmanship. The rest of the battle is just a game of duck hunt before Sergeant Johnson scoops us up. This was the longest mission so far, but I really want to give the official strategy guide a shout out here. The tips in the section were absolute bangers, and really made the arc a breeze. I've never encountered a more useful group of Marines. But time to hit the beach. The guide provides a methodical approach as we fight to establish the beachhead. Our first priority is the grunts attacking from our right and straight ahead of us. We throw a couple grenades and fire off a few bursts to take care of them. Our next priority is to take out the 2 shade turrets with the Spartan laser, and the guide says time is of the essence if we want to keep our allies alive. We finish off the third group of enemies before pushing around to the right to clear out any surviving grunts in the vicinity. From here, we have an elite angle to take out the brutes and chieftain on the hill, and then mosey our way on over to destroy the anti-air wraith. The guide tells us to give the Spartan laser to the marine riding shotgun, and then let him deal with the ensuing banshees. The ghost and shade turret meet a similar fate, and we post up to allow our star-studded marine to shine. It was a little tough as it required some precision driving to avoid the incoming mortars, but our splazer operator exploded all over the enemy. Once clear, we drive down to lure 2 prowlers into the open, and then run away to let our anti-vehicle unit take care of them. The guide tells us to grab some BR ammo, a beam rifle, and head inside. In the first room, we pick off grunts and jackals with the BR and use the beam rifle on the solitary brute. Since we're low on BR ammo, we grab a carbine as the guide suggests. We again use the carbine for grunts and jackals, the beam rifle on the brute, and hitch a ride upstairs. This room is crawling with brutes, so we put the beam rifle to work, even taking the chieftain out from distance. That was easy. We hit the button, fight our way back outside, and take a joyride before jumping into the Hornet. In the Hornet, the guide suggests immediately ascending to max height, which helps avoid anti-air fire from the group on the ground, as well as dealing with the banshees flying around. We keep our distance and chip away at the Covenant forces. The guide suggests dealing with the banshees first, then anti-air race before cleaning up the straggling infantry. And don't forget to destroy the Phantom. As we land, some elites join in on the fight. We grab a fuel rod cannon and use it to wreak havoc on the pair of hunters waiting for us. The guide tells us to retrieve our beam rifle now that the hunters are taken care of, power drain a bunch of dumb monkeys, and right up to the final tower. This room is similar to the last tower, but now the brutes are stalkers. We immediately annihilate the chieftain and then pick away at the brute stalkers. It's hard to see them with the beam rifle, but we make it work. After deactivating the final barrier tower, the flood attack, and the guide tells us to mow them down with the chieftain's plasma turret. We grab dual maulers for the upcoming battle and ride back down the elevator. The fake shotguns work well enough as we wipe the flood from our vicinity and jump into the M808C main battle tank. As the guide puts it, the journey to the control room is fun, and only carelessness will get you killed. We move forward at a measured pace, stopping regularly to survey the terrain ahead for potential dangers and pick apart the Covenant in our way. This section was a cakewalk. Tank beats everything. Once we make it to the control room, we are given a Hornet to deal with a couple scarabs hindering our progress. The guide tells us to first establish air superiority by aggressively clearing the skies of banshees. Next, we clear the front deck of brutes for the targeted scarab. Then we pick a leg and smash the shielding to disable the scarab, and fly behind it to do the deed. After taking out one scarab, Covenant reinforcements arrive in vehicles, so the guide tells us to deal with them first, and then rinse and repeat on the second scarab. Overall, the guide's advice worked great, and we were able to take out both scarab tanks without any deaths. In the control room, we receive some unlikely allies as we push across multiple bridges to stop the Prophet. We focus on the fuel rod grunts from a long range and use grenades to clean up the rest. We grab a fuel rod cannon with max ammo and a plasma turret for good measure. The turret mows down the jetpack routes on the next bridge, and we switch to the fuel rod once we run out of ammo. We claim the chieftain's hammer, slay the Prophet of Truth, and have our new allies turn to foes. The return route is crawling with flood, but that's not a problem with a fuel rod gun, gravity hammer, and invincibility that we stole from the chieftain. We brute force our way through and make our great escape. Time to save Cortana. As we enter High Charity, our first instruction from the guide is to take out the infection forms with the assault rifle. It then recommends swapping it for a plasma rifle. The mission note also mentions that a great configuration is to have a brute shot with an energy sword or gravity hammer for up close and personal fights, so we'll keep that in mind. We swap our shotgun for a sword and grab some grenades and a second plasma rifle to dual wield. The guide tells us that after dropping through the butthole, we should take cover here, as we blast incoming flood with our 2 plasma rifles. Then we swap them for a brute shot and deal with the carrier forms via grenades. We battle a boatload of combat and pure forms and re-up on grenades in the next room after wreaking havoc with the brute shot and sword. Heading forward, the guide suggests immediately heading straight and to the left. This area provides cover from the ranged forms and gives us the opportunity to draw Flood to our position and make careful attacking forays from our hiding spot. This was a long battle, with tons of enemies to take out, but taking it slow and steady, we powered through it with ease. We run low on brute shot ammo, so we go back to the trusty dual plasma rifles and use them to pop the carrier forms awaiting our arrival in the next corridor. We get our hands on a hidden flamethrower thanks to the guide and burn everything we can. The guide tells us to be cautious, as enemies continue pouring out as you progress. I guess I wasn't cautious enough since I had my fair share of deaths, but eventually I got the memo to move slowly and carefully enough to make it through. I actually just needed to use my grenades to halt their advance. More great advice from the guide. The next area has little cover, so we use the rest of the flamethrower and switch back to our plasma rifles to hit the Flood from range. The guide doesn't provide much help here, but I just keep to the theme of slow and steady, retreating to gain my shields when necessary, and pummeling everything I see with a rain of plasma fire. After clearing the room, we grab a cloaking device and jump the gap to High Charity's reaction core. We stack up on brute shot ammo and methodically clear the room, mostly firing from positions that shelter us from range forms, but also sometimes aping it with the sword. Finally, we follow the corridor and retrieve Cortana. As the guide suggests, we pull up our Mjolnir-powered pants in readiness as we head back to the reactor core. There's a load of enemies, but I utilize the invisibility and my get-out-of-jail-free card to make it to the control panel to expose the reactors. All three of them are destroyed very easily with the brute shot, peeking in and out of the bubble shield and using the sword for any foes who dare enter. Now we just need to escape. We slice and dice our way as we retrace our steps, and pop another get-out-of-jail-free card to make it a little easier. Swapping between the sword and brute shot, we trample every Flood form in our path. And in the final chamber, the guide tells us to just run to the Pelican. Don't have to tell me twice. Cortana is saved, we hitch a ride with Arby, and it's time to finish the fight once and for all. After landing, the guide tells us to switch out our assault rifle for a BR amidst the debris from the crashed Pelican before pushing ahead towards the ziggurat. As combat forms emerge, we pull back and knock them down from distance with the battle rifle. We grab the nearby fuel rod cannon to deal with any shielded Flood and systematically work our way around the snow-covered landscape. The guide says the most efficient weapons combination is a fuel rod cannon and a brute shot, so we keep that in mind, but need to be thrifty with our shots since ammo is sparse. As we approach the walkway, the guide tells us to run into the corner at the very top of the slope for cover. We take range shots from here until we run low on ammo and then clear the area and grab the flamethrower. From here we focus on the same tactics of steady, cautious progression, saving the flamethrower for pure forms, and switching to the fuel rod or brute shot for the combat forms. Or any weapon if we find ourselves out of ammo, which, spoiler alert, happens a lot. The guide mentions the Needler as a good alternative, but I've also been having success with dual plasma rifles. As we approach the entrance, we deploy a couple auto turrets, snag an invincibility pointed out by the guide's map, and get ready for a horde of Flood. I use the brute shot when I feel endangered, plasma rifles for most enemies, and the flamethrower for pure forms, at least until I run out of ammo. After a few minutes of mayhem, we make it inside, let the monitor kill our beloved Sarge, and have a laser duel. Spartan laser always wins. On the way out, we face more combat forms and grab the sentinel beam to deal with the shielded variety. Or just any Flood, really. As we head outside, Johnson leaves us a warthog as a parting gift, and it's time for one last run with the boys. The guide covers the run, but it was more of a victory lap than anything. It tells us to watch out for infection forms, carrier forms, and sentinels here, hammer the pedal in the enclosed tunnel, and that sort of thing. It mentions that the sentinels will change your direction while airborne, so try to avoid that. And the worst hit was for the second tunnel, telling us to go underneath to avoid the large group of combat Flood with fuel rod cannons. So on my first attempt, this happens. Then I fail getting down there a couple times. Then I nail it and realize you can't go this way. I eventually figured out this is what the guide meant, but it took a lot of pain to get here. In the final approach, the guide mentions to slow down and avoid jumping, since panels are flying everywhere and you never know which ones may fall down before we land. We make our final leap into the dawn, and the fight is finished. And that's how we beat Halo 3 how Bungie intended. This guide was a little weird the way it was structured, with a lot of valuable information hidden after each mission. This was all presented up front in Halo CE and Halo 2, but the layout made me feel like it had less information for the player. There's essentially two different guides, one for normal, which was incredibly lackluster and didn't offer much more than instructions on where to go, and then the legendary guide, which was incredibly in-depth and really laid out each situation and strategies to get through them. Not to mention an entire extra section after the campaign walkthrough meant to prepare you for a legendary run, describing each enemy weapon and vehicle, charts of weapon efficiency for each enemy, and weapon analysis with strengths and weaknesses. The structure of the guide made it my least favorite, but I also think it was objectively the most helpful guide to get you through the campaign. This playthrough was by far the easiest in the series, and I would attribute that to how in-depth the legendary guide was. Although I was playing on heroic, and I've always felt that Halo 3 was the easiest in the trilogy. But still, this guide does its job and it does it well. Either way, we've now completed the original trilogy how Bungie intended. And while there are 2 more Bungie games with strategy guides, I only own the original trilogy. So if you want to see those, I'm gonna need, I don't know, at least 500 likes on this video. Ambitious goal considering the performance of the first 2 videos, but I'm poor. So tell your friends and tell your grandma to watch and like the video. And if you want to see me beat Halo CE or Halo 2 how Bungie intended, click one of the videos on your screen now.